Hello there.
General Kenobi!
You are listening to Mando Talk, your home for the Mandalorian chapter breakdowns, speculation, and all kinds of Star Wars fun. What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome back to Mando Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Keller, and joining me inside the studio this week is my brother in the Force, in the flesh, in blood, Jacob, the Master Keller. First of all, it's been a really long time since we've seen you. So, first of all, what have you been up to?
Just the usual. How many weeks has it been?
It's got to be like a month.
Really?
It's got to be.
Wow. Time flies.
So seriously, what you been up to, dude?
Just working, school, trying to grow my own vegetable garden.
the
Farmer Jake.
The Jedi life.
Yeah.
Farming. It's a peaceful. Wait. That's
yeah.
What's his name? Jyn Erso's father, Galen.
Mm-hmm.
Galen Erso. Farming. It's a peaceful life.
Yeah.
Dude, you're Galen Erso. Like, officially, I think if you were a canon character, it's not Yoda, it's Galen Erso. Would you be able to do that? Would you be able to forcefully leave your family and help the Empire?
No.
But secretly plant the way of destruction? Because if he hadn't have done it, the Empire probably would have ruled forever and ever and ever. And we wouldn't have had the story of the Skywalkers.
That's a tough responsibility.
Do you sacrifice time with your family to save the galaxy, in other words?
Life with my family and my family's lives.
True. I'm putting you on the spot. Our listeners are going to judge you hardcore for this answer.
Honestly, I don't know that I'm at a point in my life where I have that much willpower to sacrifice my own will to do the greater good.
Man.
But
life changes.
Yeah.
Your view on life changes.
Well, but
I'll ask you in 10 years.
But if I'm led, if my heart feels compelled that I have to do something for the greater good and, not care about what I want to do, then I hope that I'll go with that.
Absolutely, Galen. Listen, while we're at the top.
By the way, I'm honored that you called me Master.
Yeah. Okay, so last week I gave Nolan the nickname of the Speculator. This week I'm giving you the nickname of the Master. Now I need to come up with a nickname for BA.
So am I the Master or Galen?
I don't know. We might need to switch it to the Farmer. You let us know, listeners, which nickname fits Jacob better, the Master or the Farmer? Comment in the YouTube comment section. While we're talking about YouTube, let's get some plugs in.
They're both worthy.
They are worthy.
Both titles.
Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you are listening to our sweet, sweet voices. You want to click the subscribe button, like it, rate it, whatever you can do to make us look good.
Yes, sir.
Do it, because we would really appreciate it no matter what platform you're on. But these three platforms are really important: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mando Talk, because you want to get to communicate with us a little bit more. That's the avenue to do that. So check that out. And actually, those of you that have communicated with us on Twitter this week, we're going to talk about your replies and things that you mentioned about with our topic here at the start. So again, if you want to join in on that fun, follow us on those social medias.
Right on. So we're going to get to hear some people's views. Right on.
Yeah, we are. And it's gonna be fun. It's always fun to get the community's views.
Yeah, it is.
I think I prefer listening to those out there more than I prefer listening to myself, to be honest. Which I think that's a good look to have.
Yeah.
Good outlook.
And we love all of them out there.
Yeah, we do. We love you all. Now, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to get into our main topic right here off the start. We are treating this like yet again another news week, because we just keep getting solid, quality, good news pieces to focus our show around. We do have some ideas, though, of upcoming content as far as topics in the dead period if we happen to get a week that we don't really get news. But you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks, possibly. But anyway, here's the big news piece. Let's just go ahead and do it. It's regarding Kathleen Kennedy. We know that is probably one of the divisive topics in the Star Wars community. So we're going to address it in both lanes. We're going to address it in the positive light. We're also going to address it down the negative light, and we're going to leave it up to you as to what avenue you prefer. Completely up to you. And again, let us know what you think. Anyway, let's do this. So,
who's going first?
The Disney CEO, Bob Chapek, reaffirmed Kathleen Kennedy's secure future at Lucasfilm this past week. During a conference call with investors, Chapek spoke on the fact that direct-to-consumer business is the company's top priority. Now,
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily connect to Kathleen Kennedy currently, but we're going to come back to that at some point. But I think that is really important to note because Disney Plus is already surpassed 100 million worldwide subscribers. And I think a lot of that goes to The Mandalorian. So that does connect to Kathleen Kennedy, though, because she's the president of the company that put together The Mandalorian. Now, specifically with Kathleen Kennedy, during this call, Chapek was asked about all the rumors of Kathleen Kennedy eventually being fired as the president of Lucasfilm, and Chapek responded with the following statement. We've been absolutely thrilled that we can have the creative talent in our company the likes of Kathleen Kennedy. We look forward to having Kathleen directing Lucasfilm activities for years to come. So, very supportive statement. Now, I will address this, though. It's an investors meeting. These are people that put money into your company.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to use that as an opportunity to look bad. He's gonna say something. He's gonna say something to make it sound really good about Kathleen Kennedy's future with Lucasfilm, regardless if what he said is actually 1,000% true or if it's not. Like, he's not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, we've been thinking about that and we're just not really 100% sure right now. He's not going to say that in an investors meeting.
Because that's going to make the investors have to factor
questionable.
in. Right, they're going to have to factor in another changing variable.
Right. So I think that's important. I think a lot of people are just running with this quote and like, oh, it's official. She's going to be there for years and years and years and years to come.
Yeah.
Which might be true. That's fine if it's true. But it's also, again, important to notice he's not going to say anything negative in that moment.
Right.
So like I was saying when I first introduced this, we're going to go down two lanes with this. We're going to make a case for Kathleen Kennedy being the president of Lucasfilm. And we're also going to make a couple of cases against Kathleen Kennedy being the president of Lucasfilm. Let's start with cases for. And I've already got mine prepped. And after I go over each one, Jacob, the master, the farmer, I'll ask you what you think about that specific case. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. First case for Kathleen Kennedy remaining the president of Lucasfilm. She has produced 5 movies, and each of those 5 movies, or combined, $5.9 billion have been made in the box office. As president of an entertainment company, that's the definition of success. Like, there's no arguing against that. With The Force Awakens, $2 billion something dollars, home run. What's next? Rogue One, $1 billion, home run. Last Jedi, $1 billion in money aspect, home run. And then Solo happened, which took a little hit. It was only like a $400 million, and I'm rounding up a little bit with that. Yeah. So it actually lost money, but the other movies made up the slack for that. And then the last one was The Rise of Skywalker, $1 billion. So what do you think, Jacob, as far as that goes? I mean, as a president of a company, your job is to make money for Disney. And she did it. So what do you think?
Okay. So that's net profit.
That's from the box office. Now, that I don't think that's subtracting away the amount of money it took to actually make the film.
Oh, now that's important.
Well, it is. But I don't necessarily think that honestly, if you take away the money, well, I don't know. I don't know necessarily looking at the numbers, but regardless, $5.9 billion in the box office for 5 movies is very successful.
I don't know anything about it, honestly.
Okay.
But if that's if that amount of money, that's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
If that amount of money in the box office is successful,
Very successful.
then I believe it.
So it typically in the movie industry, if you make the $1 billion mark,
Mm-hmm.
it's supposed to be an incredible film.
Hmm.
Like it's a well-deserving film. You're at an elite level if you make that $1 billion mark. Now, I feel like lately, like the comic book industry has made it easier to hit that $1 billion mark, and it happened more frequently for people to no longer view the $1 billion mark maybe as special. I still think it's special, though, to hit that $1 billion mark. I mean, that's impressive. So props to Kathleen Kennedy for that. So that's my first case. 5 movies equaled $5.9 billion in the box office. Okay, second case for Kathleen Kennedy being the president. George Lucas named Kathleen Kennedy himself as the successor for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know George Lucas. I'm not inside his brain. I don't know necessarily that reason, but I do think that's important. I mean, if we're big Star Wars fans, George Lucas is the maker, the master, the creator, and he trusted Kathleen Kennedy to be the next president, the next creative head of the company moving forward. It's hard to ignore that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard. Okay, but that takes me to the next thing as far as maybe why he trusted her, and that's because her history speaks for itself. She is one of the greatest movie producers of all time. So I'm going to list some of the movies that I've seen. Jacob, I want to know if you've seen these movies that she produced, and if you even knew that she produced them. I have a feeling you probably didn't even know she produced some of them.
Right.
Back to the Future franchise.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I don't think I have. I've
Okay.
seen clips, and I didn't even know that she produced that.
Right. Okay. Goonies.
I've seen that.
Okay, so that's an
Awesome
important one in the
movie.
childhood, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jurassic Park franchise.
I've seen the first one.
Okay. Well, and a
think.
lot of people view that as the best one. So,
what's 2 and 3 about?
see, I've seen them like at an early stage of my childhood, but I don't remember like plot lines.
Okay.
Okay, next was Indiana Jones. After Star Wars, that's like the next franchise that I watched the most. growing
Really?
up. Yeah, I think
Huh.
so. Like series.
More than Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Really?
I didn't really get into Lord of the Rings until I was a teenager. But Indiana Jones, I remember Indiana
didn't come
Jones.
out till
True.
mid 2000s. I
And I
think.
remember Indiana Jones, though, as like the first franchise movie set that I got for Christmas.
Yeah.
So, Indiana Jones after
Does that mean
Star
if you
Wars.
pull
is-
out that old box, the paper VHS box, that it'll have her name on it?
Yes,
Wow.
1,000%. Okay, next is E.T.,
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
Didn't know she produced it.
Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh my.
Didn't you used to love that movie?
If I watched it again, I'm sure I probably would love it again.
Yeah.
Still love it.
Okay, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Haven't watched that one.
Okay, but I've heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
Seabiscuit.
Yeah, watched
I
that
remember trying to watch that as a kid, and then there was like questionable scenes that a kid probably shouldn't be seeing, and my parents quit letting me watch that movie after they found out, things about Seabiscuit. And that was just a select few of the list. I mean, that list just keeps going on and on and on.
Are there more that we would know?
Possibly. There's more that you might know that when I looked at the list, I didn't know.
Okay.
But regardless, it's going to be hard to find somebody that hasn't been touched by Kathleen Kennedy produced movies at some point in their childhood.
Right.
I mean, you go through the list, I think someone has seen at least one of those movies in that list. So her history speaks for itself. She's very qualified for this type of role. Okay, anyway, we went down a rabbit hole with that one. But, okay, the next point that I have, case for Kathleen Kennedy being the president, is, again, back to the Bob Chapek statement saying direct-to-consumer business is the company's top priority.
Oh, yeah,
If
and you can
that's-
see that.
Yeah,
You can see that.
and if that's the company's top priority, Kathleen Kennedy is filling that role perfectly because The Mandalorian is what got Disney Plus to be so successful. So, and then the last point that I have, as long as she continues to hire and trust the right people like she's been doing lately, I think that equals to success for everyone. She can handle the business aspect. She can direct the ship, but she can trust in Favreau, Filoni, Patty Jenkins, Taika Waititi, Deborah Chow to produce the content and to actually go into what Star Wars means. Okay, I gave you all those different cases, Jacob. I know I've been talking. I apologize for that. But what do you think as far as any other cases for Kathleen Kennedy being in the role, or maybe just any general thoughts to those cases that I've listed out?
Well, first, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you really think that The Mandalorian is the reason why Disney Plus has took off the way it has?
I think it was the opening success for why that platform took off.
Okay.
Because Disney Plus launched with The Mandalorian. Now, and
Right.
this dives completely away from
You're
Star
jogging
Wars.
my memory, but yeah, I remember now.
Diving away from Star Wars, Disney Plus, though, has all the catalog of all your childhood movies.
Oh, yeah.
And as a parent, I can imagine having a kid and that being like the immediate subscription service that I would get, because I know as a parent I would have all my kids watch those Disney movies.
The ones that we watched when we were growing
Right.
up.
So from that, I'm sure that brought a lot of people in too.
Mm-hmm.
But The Mandalorian, for the most part, I feel like, is what drove a lot of people to get Disney Plus. And you can book into that currently with WandaVision. That's Marvel's new show. I feel like that is what got them to that $100 million mark, or $100 million subscriber mark.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question,
Okay.
yes,
Right on.
The Mandalorian.
Okay. Now, what was your question to me? Okay, so, yeah, I can definitely see if she's produced that many movies that were really good.
Mm-hmm.
She does have a history that speaks to her performance in that role.
Right.
And it's true that she's given us under her leadership, we've gotten The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
All 5 of those movies.
Yeah, and you can make arguments like those movies, they didn't hit that great, right? But, again...
Yeah, so that's the other side of the coin.
Right.
We could also argue that under her leadership, there was, that flawed way of writing
of
that
story
we always talk about for the sequels.
Yeah.
And I suppose all I have to say about that is we hope that... Well, what was her first project with Lucasfilm?
As the current role of president?
Right.
Force Awakens.
Okay. So, yeah, that's like her introduction into a new role.
Which was knocked out the park, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, everyone loved that movie initially.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
Yeah.
It wasn't until The Last Jedi when it was very clear that the story wasn't necessarily planned,
Fleshed out.
that pushback started occurring.
Yeah.
So,
I suppose all I can say is I hope that she's learned how to how to do that role the best. And I think with The Mandalorian and other successes that we've seen that she can.
yeah.
Let's hope that she's learned how to direct, how to guide a project like sequels.
Agreed.
Based off of what she's guided in the past.
I feel you. I feel you. No, and I think it's very evident that they're trying to show that they learned that lesson, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy learned that lesson of, okay, we need to make sure this next go at it with all these TV shows that it's all planned out, which seems very planned out with The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic. Those are just Mandoverse and Book of Boba Fett. That's just Mandoverse connected shows.
That's another point that can be made. We have all these really big these upcoming shows and movies, right?
Yeah.
Movies?
We got a couple movies. Yeah.
Okay. I can never remember.
That's okay, man. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, and a lot of things going on in our personal lives too, right?
Yeah.
But with all those new things that we're looking forward to, I don't think it would be in our own best interest to have someone else to come in
Yeah.
to take charge of those things
Right.
when they would be brand new.
Yeah.
You know, we basically, it's like Titans getting a new coach
Okay.
every time that the year isn't so good.
Right. Okay.
It's
Sure.
it's like a college football team getting a new coach every time they don't do so great. Right. That's exactly what it would be like. So, you know, if we're looking forward to all these future projects,
which I am.
yeah, I am too. Let's just go with the ride, because I think she's got a handle on it.
I think so. I think she's learned her lesson from the sequels.
Yeah.
I think and I don't really say that in a negative way. Us as individuals learn lessons daily.
Yeah.
Like, we learn how to better ourselves. I think she's learned how to better herself as president of Lucasfilm. And from what she has mapped out, I trust her again. Like, I'm on board. After The Mandalorian, I thought that was such a success that I'm interested to see the direction of it again. Like, Lucasfilm and Star Wars is back in a positive light again after The Mandalorian, and nothing is going to change that for me, like, on screen. Like, everything is going great on screen, which is my main focus and my main attention. So I'm hopeful, and I think that's why my case is for Kathleen Kennedy being the president of Lucasfilm. I think those stick the landing, personally.
Right on.
Now, let's go ahead and real quickly do the cases against, if you do happen to fall under that lane. So first of all, if you are for Kathleen Kennedy being president of Lucasfilm, comment in the YouTube video and tell us why you think she should continue to be the president of Lucasfilm. So now we're going down the other lane, though. Cases against Kathleen Kennedy being the president of Lucasfilm. And my first one, and there's not as many of these, but the amount I don't necessarily think is as important as what's inside those. And the biggest thing for me is the handling of directors and creatives were horrible during the theatrical push. Like, when Disney and Star Wars was focused only on movies before the TV show started being a thing, it was bad. So let me run through that list. Rogue One is when the issues started occurring. Apparently, there was control taken away from the director, Gareth Edwards. Then The Last Jedi happens. Apparently, too much control was given to Rian Johnson. And, you know, obviously that's going to spark some things out there.
Yeah.
Lord and Miller were fired from Solo due to creative differences. That's what the statement was pushed out and said, creative differences. Colin Trevorrow fired from Episode 9 due to creative differences. And then Benioff and Weiss, the Game of Thrones guys, left their Star Wars project. Now, the Benioff and Weiss thing could have been just themselves wanting to just not do the Star Wars project anymore.
Right.
We don't really know the full details behind that. That decision came kind of soon after the last season of Game of Thrones got pushed back, so maybe they didn't want to deal with franchises anymore, which is fine. So necessarily that might not be on Kathleen Kennedy whatsoever. But anyway, you can't ignore the fact that it's been a hot mess with the movies that have been pushed out so far.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, at least. And that goes back to no story was planned.
Yeah.
There's got to be a story, and I think we've touched on that a lot. Like, almost in every other podcast episode, at some point that comes up somehow.
Yeah. Ad infinitum.
Yeah. Now, the last point that I have cases against is I don't necessarily know if she's one of those individuals that, like, dives deep into Star Wars, like us. I would say that's my second case and my last case against Kathleen Kennedy being president of Lucasfilm. Because you think about Kevin Feige. So let's think about the Marvel president, Kevin Feige. He adores Marvel. Star Wars. He dives deep into the content. He knows the content. He knows what the fans want. I don't think, and I might be wrong. I'm not inside the inside baseball lane. I don't know people in the industry, but I watch and listen to people inside the industry, and they all talk about how she's not deep into the lore of it or necessarily the story of it. So that's my pushback. Well, I think she's great for business aspect. So again, like being the president of a company, I think requires a lot of business stuff that sometimes people just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people say, oh, make Dave Filoni the president of Lucasfilm. No shot, in my opinion, because being president of Lucasfilm means you got to go to investors meeting, you got to talk money, you got to talk business. Dave Filoni's not in the interest of talking business. He's in the interest of creating good Star Wars stories, and that's not what the president of Lucasfilm does all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I could make an argument for Jon Favreau being the president of Lucasfilm. I think that'd be something that he might be interested in, and that would then be someone that enjoys the business aspect, but also enjoys the canon and diving into the content. So I don't know. It's like pick your battles, basically. But yeah, I feel like I've been talking a ton regarding this. What are your thoughts on any of that?
You know more about it than I do.
Okay.
All I'm here for is Jedi and Force, basically. The master farmer.
Right. Well, listen, let us know what you think about this Kathleen Kennedy thing. It seems like it comes up like every 3 months, and it can kind of get exhausting, honestly. Like, just let her do her job, like, just let's watch what she produces.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy what she produces. If you don't like it, that's okay. We can have a conversation about it. But right now, I think Star Wars is back on the uptick with The Mandalorian and all the shows they got lined up. So that's all I've got to say about that. But I did throw on Twitter just a poll real quickly of us wanting to hear from you, our listeners. So again, follow us at Mando Talk on Twitter to continue to interact with us. I sent out the question. We want to hear from you. Are you for or against Kathleen Kennedy leading the company? The conversation we just had. 70% are for Kathleen Kennedy leading the company. 30% are against. And I do want to read a couple of responses that we got. One of the responses came from @AbandonedLizard. He said, or I guess Lizard It said, I don't know what you are, Lonely. I don't know what you are, Abandoned Lizard. Because
what an interesting name.
Yeah, because while I think some of her decision making has rubbed people the wrong way, I don't want Bob Iger leading Lucasfilm and pushing and rushing films out into production for money. So he's, or it, Lizard, I don't know what you are there, Abandoned Lizard, saying that I would prefer Kathleen Kennedy because if she's not in charge, maybe Disney would just push stuff out for money, basically.
Yeah.
So I agree with that take. Like, I would rather have someone in there that does care about the quality of the content rather than, oh, this is just a money machine, let's just keep pushing it out. So I wanted to read that one real quick. Okay, and the next one that we got, at War of the Stars 1. While, yes, we have gotten the sequel trilogy under her watch, which was at best hit or miss, we also got Rogue One, the best Star Wars movie since Empire, The Mandalorian, and we haven't even talked about this yet, and the final season of Clone Wars, plus multiple movies and TV shows to come.
Yeah.
And then also, side note, at Wars of the Stars 1, it's a podcast. They say, by the way, we would love to collaborate with you guys on a show sometime. So, yeah, we might reach out to you, you know? You never know. We'll slide into those DMs. We'll talk to you soon. But, yeah, that's a great point because I completely forgot to even mention the Clone Wars. I know she probably wasn't involved with, like, the story of the Clone Wars, but it still falls under her leadership, so she gets props for it. She greenlit it, so there you go.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on those listener feedback? Comments, the data, the poll.
The poll, I would say, yeah, that sounds
70,
about
30,
right.
74,
right.
30 against.
Yeah.
And that's where I lean. I'm more so for.
Okay.
Like, I'm for her remaining at Lucasfilm because, again, she's on the uptick.
Right on. And I think I'm kind of in the same boat.
Okay.
Good. Good.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you listening to me rant on and on and on about cases for Kathleen Kennedy and cases against Kathleen Kennedy. Because like you keep saying, I know that's not necessarily up your lane. You're more so the master, the farmer, whatever you want to call yourself, where you just talk
Whatever
about...
you want to call me.
Okay,
You're the one
fair.
You're the one coming up with this stuff.
That's true. That's true. Well, listen, let us know again what you think. Cases for Kathleen Kennedy or cases against Kathleen Kennedy. We'd really love to know what you think. Okay. No theatrical news this week, but we do have streaming wars news. That's where we talk about Disney Plus news, rumors, and speculation. And this first one is kind of just fun and interesting to talk about. And that is one of my favorite actors out there, Benedict Cumberbatch. He's always been my headcanon for Thrawn, if that moment was to ever present itself.
He would be good.
He would be great.
Yeah.
But he says no thank you to the idea of playing Grand Admiral Thrawn in an interview with Collider. And here's his direct quote, and it's kind of funny. That's a straight no from me right now. There's no way I want to be turned blue. I turned the air blue very recently. No, seriously. I have precious time with my children, and I think sitting in a makeup chair and being painted blue and the amount of time it would take to do that and then take it off at the end of the day might just... It's not the right time in my life for that. Respect the answer.
Yeah.
It crushes my heart, though. It crushes me. What do you think? Like, do you hate that Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't want to play the role? Do you have someone in mind that you would rather see play the role? Or has he always been kind of your number one with it, too? Like me.
No, I mean, really, it's just you've said that he would be a great actor to play the part, and, you know, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, he's got the look, for sure.
Yeah, and he's got the
voice and the jawline.
And the
presence.
Demeanor.
Okay.
I
I guess I get that from him playing Khan in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And also, the voice, the performance he does in The Hobbit as the dragon. What's the dragon's name?
Smog.
There you go.
The
See, I
Great.
know you know more about...
The Great and Terrible.
Yeah, there you go. I know you know more about Lord of the Rings and Hobbit than me. So I figured I'd let you shine in that moment.
I'm here all day. I could go for hours about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, much respect to him, though, for, you know, placing priorities where they should be.
Yeah. Agreed.
And makeup does take a long time. We don't really realize that watching a movie, but it takes...
It does.
Forever.
Like, I think they did a time lapse of Rosario Dawson getting dolled up for... dressed up for Ahsoka.
That's gotta be so
I can only
much.
imagine. Maddie, my wife, Maddie, she watches these shows where they, like, transform these individuals to almost like objects with makeup on their face. Like, I recently saw someone's face get turned into a tree. That's what it looked like. And, like, they sit in that chair for hours and hours to get that done.
Yeah.
I'd imagine the same thing for Ahsoka.
What do you do, like, in your head? What do you do? Are you able to read something?
Dude, I don't know. Not in the show that I was watching.
And just, like...
they also, like, in the show, the show that we were watching, I know we're getting away from Star Wars, but it applies back to, like, actors having to get painted on during Star Wars. They put stuff over their mouths and, like, painted over it, too. How do you breathe?
What about their noses?
Yeah. Fully submerged.
Both at the same time?
Covered. And they got to sit there for a long time. That is skill of in itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an actor or actress playing the role where you have to be dolled up, painted up, make-upped up, like that intense, you got props from me already.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand ink being on me for an extended amount of time. I can't stand a little pencil mark on my hand. I can only imagine being practically painted on. I feel like I would get very claustrophobic very quickly. So yeah, I don't blame
What about
Benedict
Chewbacca,
whatsoever.
the guy who plays him?
See, I don't know. That would be tough. Don't get me wrong, but I think it'd be easier to be in kind of that costume rather than painted like Ahsoka.
But it is like on their face, wasn't it? Kind of like
his eyes are painted, but I don't necessarily know about his full face.
But wasn't it like glued on?
Ooh. Maybe in the original trilogy. Is that what you're talking about? Or even the most recent Chewbacca, too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's.
It might be.
Because it's
might
too
be both.
tight to be a mask.
That's true.
It's
true.
gotta. It's, it's really tight.
It is. It's really tight. It's really tight. No, seriously, props to performers that do that, and I don't blame Cumberbatch whatsoever for not wanting to do that role right now, but I do feel like it's an opportunity missed, in my opinion.
Who could do it? Who else?
Okay, my next vote would be Mads Mikkelsen, which is the brother of Galen Erso's actor.
See,
Mads Mikkelsen is the voice of Thrawn in Rebels. So you've already got that avenue. I believe I'm quoting that name correctly.
he looks too old to me.
Does he?
And I don't know. He might take offense to that if he ever listened to us.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen. If you listen to, no. Mads Mikkelsen is Galen Erso. His brother is who I'm talking about. Lars Mikkelsen. That is the voice for Thrawn.
Yeah.
That's who my vote for Thrawn is. Sorry. Mads Mikkelsen, let me correct myself, is Galen Erso. I completely dropped the ball on that. I was just thinking about Galen Erso because I keep calling you the farmer. Lars Mikkelsen is the voice of Thrawn. That's my vote for live-action Thrawn. Currently.
He doesn't look right to me.
I mean, the picture I'm looking at of Lars Mikkelsen right now, he's got a huge beard, so yeah, he doesn't look like him whatsoever. But here, I'll pull up a picture for you, Jacob, to look at. I mean, you don't see Thrawn in Lars whatsoever.
No.
Man, okay. All right, do you have another take then of someone you'd like to see?
I'm not really good at remembering actors.
I think there's a lot of different possibilities. There's a lot of great potential.
Okay. Name someone
Oh,
else.
I'm not good at naming it either. I'm just saying, like, if you're listening out there, YouTube, comment your casting for Thrawn. There was a report out there recently that Robert Downey Jr., and I say no to that 1,000%. I don't want to see it.
No.
I do not want to see it. I'm looking up.
Why?
Why do I not want to see it?
That's like vehement. Like, no. Never.
Yeah, well, he's one of those characters that I feel like now, just like Mark Hamill, you look at Mark Hamill, you know it's Luke Skywalker.
Right.
I feel like when you look at Robert Downey Jr., it's Iron Man, and there's no getting around that at this point.
He doesn't have the demeanor either.
I don't think so either.
All of the other performances I've seen him in.
Yeah.
He don't have the menacing, conniving.
Agreed. Well, listen, I typed in live-action Thrawn. Lars Mikkelsen's the number one guy that keeps popping up, man.
I don't agree.
Well, you're going to have to agree. Well, again, I hate to see it. Benedict Cumberbatch has always been my favorite Grand Admiral Thrawn potential. It doesn't seem like we're going to get it. He's just going to keep doing stuff in Marvel Universe, being Doctor Strange, but that's fine. That's fine. Okay, the next piece of news in the streaming wars. The Mandalorian producer, writer, and director, Jon Favreau, was nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Dramatic Series for Chapter 9, The Marshal. So, here at Mando Talk, let's reflect about The Mandalorian Chapter 9, The Marshal. And what I wanted to dive into with that is this question. Why do we believe Chapter 9 was nominated for this award over all the other chapters? So I do think, and I might be incorrect with this statement, I feel like the pilots of seasons are typically the ones that get the most recognition as far as awards go.
Yeah.
And I also think it helps that Favreau, obviously the award committee, knows that Favreau produces, writes, and directs a lot of the different things inside The Mandalorian. So they probably chose Chapter 9 as one of the chapters, or the premiere chapter, because he was the one that did it all. So they wanted to recognize him putting so much effort into the entire show, specifically for the one show that the one episode that he directed. So why do you think Chapter 9 was nominated?
What was the award again?
Outstanding.
You gotta tell me, because I was still milling over in my head which actor.
Outstanding directorial achievement.
Okay. Well, like you said, it is the pilot. It kicks off
the season,
the new
pilot of the season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It kicks off the new season, and that one did a great job. It did a great job of pulling us back in.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a classic
Western.
Good, that. But too, it also had like the kind of like a because of the crate dragon. It kind of had like a hero goes and kills the beast in order to gain the next step in his hero's journey.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're
saying.
Kind
of storyline to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, and I also want to add to that. It probably in the second season, I think that's the chapter that feels the most Star Wars. Would you agree with that? I mean, it helps that you're on Tatooine.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call it how we see it. Anytime you're on Tatooine, it's gonna feel like Star Wars. It's gonna be hard not to feel like Star Wars. But yeah, I like your take too. I mean, it has a beginning, middle, end kind of direction with that chapter.
Yeah.
The crate dragon, I'm sure shooting that and coming up with all the different technicalities and mechanics of how to shoot it and what it's going to look like digitally and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure that took a lot of skill, and I'm sure Favreau wasn't alone in that process. I know he wasn't alone in that process. He has a great creative team working on The Mandalorian. So props to really everyone that did Chapter 9. But really the best part always, in my opinion, for Chapter 9 is going to be two things. Timothy Olyphant is Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, he was great.
And Tamara Morrison making his return at the very, 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 very end.
Yeah. So it was a great, full, complete story in itself, but it also added at that last scene.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to for the entire season.
Yeah. And now Star Wars as a whole with the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Great point. And to even drive home the Western thing, I completely forgot about how initially, as that chapter is ending, you're thinking that it's one of those stereotypical Western Last Crusade, Indiana Jones riding off in the sunset, but then it suddenly changes and you see the bald, old, grumpy Boba Fett and you hear the music, the tense change of tone, and you're just like, okay, yeah, we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, for some reason I completely forgot about that. It was full on like Western vibe of a send off.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there he is. So yeah, I do think Chapter 9 felt the most Star Wars of the second season. Had probably the most clear story. Like it could have stood alone as an episode itself.
Oh yeah.
It could have just been like a standoff, one episode thing for Star Wars fans to just watch. So yeah, and props to Jon Favreau for all of his work in The Mandalorian, and I think that the committee is recognizing that and pointing and picking out his specific directed chapter to allow him to bathe in the glory of all of his accomplishments with the show. All right. That concludes our Streaming Wars segment where we talk about all Disney Plus news, rumors, and speculation. And our last segment is Canon Cantina, but it looks like Jacob's got his little E.T. wiggly finger over there trying to cut me off. What you got? What you got?
I've got a thought.
What's that thought?
All right, so you know how I was talking about the hero's journey and slaying the monster in order to get to the next step in the hero's journey.
By the way, we took 2 steps back out of the Canon Cantina. We're not quite in there yet, so we're going to finish this conversation first.
What?
Keep going.
Yeah, all right, so think about how Cobb Vanth, he had the armor. He wasn't a Mandalorian. And at first, Din was upset about that.
Correct.
But then he
Respected it.
respected it.
Him.
Yeah, respected him at the end. And, Cobb Vanth gave him the armor, and all was well. But it took him compromising on that idea, that belief that he had, that you had to be Mandalorian and you had to stick to the way in order to have the privilege of wearing that armor ever.
Yeah.
Now, that's the first episode in the season. Now look where the end of the season gets with him.
He's completely taking his gear off.
Yeah.
Turning into a stormtrooper when he has to. Taking his helmet
Yeah.
off to get access to his little baby.
Yeah.
Taking his helmet off to reveal himself to his baby.
Now, I don't know if you've looked into it. I haven't really much, but the hero's journey, which is what this whole episode is like, basically, it's just a summed up
Yeah.
whole hero's journey condensed into one episode. It's perfect that that kind of theme plays into this one episode, and then it gets extended into the whole season, so that the whole season becomes,
Okay.
like that whole step in the hero's journey was
Yeah.
him realizing that you don't have to religiously wear your helmet all the time to be a Mandalorian. And a Mandalorian isn't necessarily, how do I put it? Help me out here. Mandalorian is like just someone who keeps their word.
Has honor.
Yeah.
And is a warrior.
Yeah.
And is awesome.
Yeah. And you don't have to never show your face.
Yeah. Now, we're going down a rabbit hole, but that's fine. You think it was because he's fully committed to that, or you think it's just because his love for Grogu that he did it?
I think he's...
Or a little bit of both. Like, did Grogu open up his mind to being like, okay, this is okay to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's just funny that that first episode was like the first step in all of that we see in this second season.
No, I agree with that. That's a very nice and interesting take.
Yeah.
I like it. Are you ready to...
Well, because we didn't see any of that in season 1, did we?
Of him flirting with the helmet?
Yeah.
Well, other than IG-11 taking it off for him. That was about it. And we saw him take it off for a brief moment in Chapter 4.
Yeah,
when he was
nobody
eating,
was
but no
watching.
one was around. Right. But it also seemed like he was flirting with the idea when the chick tried to take his helmet off.
Right, but, that's because he was falling.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah. Tripping for the ladies. Well, listen, are you ready to take a visit into the Canon Cantina?
Yes.
Okay, let's visit the Canon Cantina where we talk about video game, book, and comic news, the other stuff, the stuff away from the big screen and Disney Plus, the things that probably a lot of people hear about. Well, Canon Cantina is more of like an exclusive group. You really got to dive deep into lore to maybe understand and talk about some of these things. But we're here to provide for everyone. I mean, you don't have to be a Star Wars nerd or sweaty to come in the Canon Cantina with us. So go ahead and join us. We're going to talk about this. All we have is book news this week as far as the Canon Cantina goes, and that is this. And it's a bummer because I was excited about both of these. The Mandalorian visual guide and original novel both have been shelved, canceled. So DK Books US, this is their statement they released. Due to the ever-expanding world of The Mandalorian, we will no longer be publishing The Mandalorian Ultimate Visual Guide at this time, as the story continues to unfold on screen. That was from the Visual Guides publication company. Del Rey Star Wars Books. Due to the ever-expanding world of The Mandalorian, we will no longer be publishing the Mandalorian original novel at this time as the story continues to unfold on screen. Both of those different companies having the exact same words tells me that this was a top-down decision.
Yeah.
That this was planned either A, by Lucasfilm as a whole, I reckon, Star Wars as a whole, or maybe Favreau himself. Because I do okay, let's just go ahead and say it. I think there's a possibility that this is a response to Gina Carano, because this is pretty fresh after all that went down, and we don't really want to dive into that, but we got to point it out because it's a possibility that that's one of the motivating factors behind this.
Yeah.
Maybe they're unsure of their direction with how to handle the character moving forward, but I will go ahead and be on record, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, Jacob. I'll go ahead and be on record in saying if you try to erase Cara Dune, I'm not even talking about Gina Carano right now. If you try to erase Cara Dune from canon somehow, I think that's kind of silly. She's out there at this point. You can't just retract the character, even if you retract the actress. You can't take her out of the show, so you might as well leave her in books. In my opinion, you might as well continue to build the character somehow. I don't know. What do you think about that?
All that would do is make a lot of people really mad.
By taking the character out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really mad.
It just wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to completely ignore the fact that she's out there. And why? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, listener? I mean, I always revert back to you guys. So, yeah, I wanted to just go ahead and point that out, that it's a possibility that it's in response to that situation.
Yeah.
Because maybe Cara Dune had a huge role in the original novel. Specifically, maybe there was like some side mission that she did inside that novel, and they just don't know, or maybe something in it teased a Cara Dune show inside the book, and maybe they just can't push that out now. I would understand that. And then same thing with visual guide. I mean, the thing about the visual guide is, and we're getting away from the Cara Dune situation with this, the thing about the visual guide is sometimes they put concept art in it. And I think there's a tremendous possibility that inside the concept art, Favreau rediscovered maybe an original idea and wants to apply it in season 3 or 4 or so on, and that prevents him from, or that makes him to not want the visual guide to go out because he wants people to be surprised by maybe something that he had originally planned. Thoughts on that?
Right. That makes sense because you don't want to reveal too much for the future. Like you were telling me that the visual guide for The Force Awakens
with JJ
contained concept art, right? That ended up being in The Rise of Skywalker.
Right. It was the Death Star 2 basically being in water kind of idea was in the concept art for The Force Awakens because JJ thought that was his only movie. But turns out life happens and he decided to come back with The Rise of Skywalker. People weren't necessarily surprised by the idea because it was already out there.
Right.
So
you don't want that.
Yeah.
I've never looked at a visual, what did you call it?
Ultimate Visual Guide.
Visual Guide.
It dives into the details of what you see, basically. Like the details of the character.
Does it have lots of pictures?
Yes.
Oof.
Yes.
I need to look at one of those.
They're awesome to look at. So typically, to be fair, to be honest, and I don't know if this is cheating, they're expensive to get, the visual guides. And by expensive, I want to say around like the $50 mark.
Can you not look at it online?
Well, you can, but
like
is that the same thing, really? I'm
No,
one of those that's got to
really.
have it hard copy, like physically, to really
With
dive
the
into it.
written description.
Yeah. But this is how I cheat. I go to the local bookstore, grab a cup of coffee of one of the coffee shops that's inside the bookstore, sit down, and flip through the pages without purchasing it. So I get the
There you
content,
go.
but I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Is that okay to do? I don't know
Yeah.
book, what's the
Um,
word I'm looking for? Etiquette, I guess, inside a bookstore. I just see Star Wars and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang out here a while, check this out. I'll just be in the corner. I'm not buying the book, but I'm reading it. Sorry.
Do they have that for... What do they have that for?
What? The visual guide?
Yeah.
All of them. Force Awakens, Last Jedi,
Okay.
Rise of Skywalker, Solo, Rogue
What about
One.
other franchises?
I don't know. I'm sure they do.
What about like Lord of the Rings?
You know they have a Lord of the Rings visual
Oof.
guide somewhere,
Oh,
and I know
my.
that you would be looking at that thing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need one of those in your life
No, I do.
because you'd be distracted.
No, I do.
Okay, fair. Well, we'll see if you get it for Christmas or something. I don't know.
I've always thought that the elvish architecture, art, clothing in the Lord of the Rings was just fascinating because I've watched a documentary of how they designed those movies.
Yeah.
And I remember that one of the artists behind it said that their whole goal with creating the elvish world in the Lord of the Rings was to create something that looked immortal, that's something that looked heavenly, something that looked, like it would be here for thousands of years and be unchanging.
Sure.
Right? And yeah, like I see that when I go back and watch the movies and I look at that design, man, I see that.
Yeah.
And how natural, but at the same time, kind of medieval and Romanesque and, like architectural these forms are.
Yeah.
And man, like I love those designs.
It sounds like Jacob needs to host a Lord of the Rings podcast.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
I'm sorry to say I don't know enough about Lord of the Rings to join you in that venture.
I think you could.
I mean, I could be the Samwise to your Frodo. I could help you carry the burden, but I don't know anything outside of that.
You could be.
I would get crumsies on my shirtsies.
Crumbs on his jackets.
Yeah, exactly.
You could be the Nolan to Caleb.
Hey, I mean, I guess that's fair. That's a fair comparison.
That would be a blast, though.
Hey. There's a Lord of the Rings show coming on Amazon
Yeah.
soon on Prime Video.
Yeah.
So if you want a Lord of the Rings series review podcast hosted by Jacob Keller, comment on the YouTube video and say, Jacob, you gotta do it, and then he'll do it. Right?
Sure.
We'll see.
I'll have to learn from, what are we going to call you?
I don't know. I'm not
host?
one of those.
Host?
I'm not one of those that gives myself a nickname,
Mm.
Somebody else has got to come up with it. Like Nolan, I gave him the nickname of the Speculator because he speculates. Let's be honest. That is his avenue. That's his lane.
yeah.
That's his favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
So we're going to call him the Speculator. I think you're always the one that reins us in and keeps us in line with canon, logistics, what's logical. That's why I call you the Master, because you're wise, you're all-knowing. So,
whoa.
okay, you're all-knowing.
Let's not go
Sorry. You're all-knowing with Star Wars content.
No, I'm not.
Okay, maybe not all-knowing. For us, you're all-knowing, though. How about that? Does that sound better? Sound better?
Guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I call you the Master. I haven't came up with a nickname for BA yet, so I need to be working on
The one
that.
who hates on the sequels.
The Last Jedi hater. The Last Jedi hater.
Yeah.
Brandon, the Last Jedi hater. That's a mouthful, though. Like, I couldn't even say it just then. Brandon, the Last Jedi hater Anderson. Yeah, that's a lot. We got to shrink that down somehow. So, yeah, y'all are going to have to come up with a nickname for me. Or ask the listeners to do it, because that's my always default.
Moff Caleb.
Moff Caleb.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, man.
Because you're like a director. You're like a
Director Krennic.
leader.
Director Krennic. Yes. Follow my lead.
Supreme leader Caleb.
Do not call me Hux. That's all I ask. Don't call me Hux.
Supreme leader. I like that. Supreme leader.
Long live the supreme leader.
All right, guys, listen. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I apologize if I went down like way too long of a rabbit hole of me going on a lecture about Kathleen Kennedy. But I did want to get
No, it
just
was
the different
reasonable,
the cases for
fair
Kennedy,
and balanced.
the cases against Kennedy. I wanted to just put all those thoughts out there because I hear both lanes.
Yeah.
And I don't really disagree with either lane either. Like, I see valid arguments for Kathleen Kennedy. I see valid arguments against Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been so critical of Kathleen Kennedy whenever the sequels were being pushed out there.
Yeah.
So critical. Like, I was ready for a new direction after The Rise of Skywalker. But you can't sit there and tell me that after the finale of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, that Star Wars is not back and in a great place. I mean, we got Luke freaking Skywalker. Like the Luke Skywalker we had always wanted.
Yeah.
So that right there is a message loud and clear. Either A, that Kathleen Kennedy hears you, or B, Kathleen Kennedy trusts Favreau to get the job done. Regardless of which answer that is, either of them is giving us good stuff.
Right.
So
Either is great.
either is great.
Both are great.
Yeah, so I hear you. I hear both lanes. I'm more so in the 4 category right now. And that could change because if you had asked me before Season 2 started, I would have said against Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
But right now I'm 4. Let us know what you think if you're for or against. I feel like I've asked that before, but if you haven't told us what you think, then you should do it by now. We also talked about streaming wars. We talked about Benedict Cumberbatch saying no shot, no thank you to Grand Admiral Thrawn. I'm kind of bummed by that. We got Jon Favreau was nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement. Congratulations to him. And again, The Mandalorian just keeps getting more and more and more awards and recognition. You'll love to see it. That's, again, another sign that Star Wars is crushing it. And then we also have the negative news inside the Canon Cantina this week of The Mandalorian visual guide and original novel both being canceled. So let us know what you think about all that different content, all that different news pieces. We can't wait to be with you again. And Jacob, I really appreciate you being back here with me and the listeners again this week.
Yeah.
It was great to have you.
I'm glad to be back.
We're currently, sorry, I didn't
mean to
cut you
while.
off.
And it's always a good time to be here with you, brother.
Yes, it is. Like I was fixing to say, we're currently in the middle of watching Blade Runner. That's what we were doing before we started recording, and it's pretty late. I don't know if we're going to actually finish that film, but we'll see.
We can do it.
If you can't tell, I think you could possibly tell somewhere in that podcast that we're feeling a little lulled, maybe. It's a long week. Do you have a long week? I had a long week, personally.
It's midterms.
Yeah.
Midterms time.
I understand that.
Let's see. I had at least 2 tests this week.
Tough.
I think 3.
Yeah.
Actually. So, yeah.
But hey.
Looking forward to the weekend.
If you had a lulled week, we hope, or I guess, again, I'm so used to the Friday schedule. Like, I keep thinking, Friday mindset, we're at the end of the week. But you're actually getting us at the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, that means you're at the start of a week. And we hope that you have a great week. We hope that your week starts off incredible and doesn't sound as lulled as our end of the week.
Yeah. And we hope that your week remains invigorating and that you keep having the strength to make it through whatever life throws your way.
May the force be with you. May the force be with you. Well, listen, follow us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Mando Talk. We love talking to you. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us or watching us. We would really appreciate it. Jacob, thank you again for being here. It's always fun.
Thank you for having me.
Can't wait to have you again. I'll go ahead and send us out of here this week. We have spoken.